Long ago, the world was young. Animals spoke to humans. Spirits walked the earth. Magic filled the air. In this time of wonder, 3 great kingdoms thrived in the heart of Nigeria. To the east lay the forests of the Igbo people. The wise priestess, Adana, guided them. She listened to the whispers of the ancestors. She kept their traditions alive. The Igbo people cherished the awful staff of truth. This staff had been carved from the oldest tree in the forest. It held the wisdom of their ancestors. The staff pulsed with a warm light. It glowed brighter when it sensed truth. The Hausa people guarded the Duba horn. This horn, adorned with intricate carvings, had been passed down from the very first king. The sound of the horn could reach every corner of the land. It could summon all animals to their aid. The Yoruba people possessed the sacred drum of Sango. This drum, forged from the wood of a sacred tree struck by lightning, held the power of the storm. Its beat echoed with the heartbeat of the earth. It could call down the fury of the heavens. These treasures were more than just objects. They were symbols of each kingdom's strength. They were a testament to the enduring spirit of Nigeria. They were a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope could be found. Peace, however, was a fragile thing. It could be shattered by the smallest whisper of darkness. In the heart of the land, where the 3 kingdoms met, lay a forbidden forest. This forest was ancient, filled with twisting trees and hidden groves. The air hung heavy, with untold secrets. Deep within this forest, a power stirred. It was a power as old as time, as dark as the night. This power was the Shadow Walker. Once he had been a man. He had walked among the people, sharing their stories and songs. But the darkness had twisted him, consumed him. He craved power. He sought to control the very essence of life itself. The Shadow Walker emerged from the forest. His eyes glowed with an eerie light. His touch brought not warmth, but a chilling cold. He cast a long shadow over the land. A darkness fell upon the kingdoms. Children's laughter turned to silence. The rivers, once teeming with life, ran black and still. The crops, once bountiful and full, withered in the fields. Fear, like a venomous serpent, slithered into the hearts of the people. The elders of the kingdoms felt the shift in the balance. They knew that something was terribly wrong. Adana, the wise priestess, consulted the spirits of the forest. The spirits whispered of a growing darkness, a threat unlike any they had ever known. Amina, the warrior queen, felt the change in the wind. It carried the scent of fear and decay. Moremi, the woman blessed by the Orishas, saw visions in the flames. The flames danced with images of a shrouded figure, his eyes burning with malice. The elders knew that time was short. They knew that they had to act swiftly. The fate of their kingdoms, the fate of their people, rested on their shoulders. A call went out across the land. The elders summoned the bravest, the wisest, the most compassionate of their people. They knew that no single kingdom could stand against this darkness alone. They needed to unite. They needed to combine their strength. In the very heart of Nigeria, where the three kingdoms met, a great gathering was held. People traveled for days, their faces etched with worry, their hearts heavy with dread. They came together, not as Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba, but as Nigerians. They came together with a shared purpose. They came together to fight the darkness. They came together to reclaim their land. Hope, like a fragile flame, flickered in their hearts. Inside the Igbo forest, sunlight they play hide and seek for ground, as they cast shadow for the old trees. The elders come gather round one fire where they burn. Kapanga Kapanga. Adana, the wise priestess, stand for their front. Her face gets small worry, but she still gets strong mind. She talk about the darkness where they grow, about the fear where they worry everybody. She talk about how them need hero, person with spirit touch, person we get mind to face within them no know. So, them go meet their ancestors for guidance. Them find champion for their people. Them choose Obiora, one young hunter, weigh him heart clean, like morning dew. Obiora, weigh him grandma raise one powerful dibia, don't sabi how to listen to the small voice of the forest. He understand within animals they talk. He know the secrets where they hide inside the leaves and the streams where they make noise. The elders see the brave heart of lion for him, the smartness of snake, and the strong spirit of their ancestors. Them give him their blessing, one chi, small fire, where them put inside wooden charm. This chi, where be symbol of hope and guidance, go light him path for the dark times. As the sun begin to sleep for the night, painting the sky orange and gold, long shadows stretch across the sandy land. Queen Amina, her face showing worry, talked to her people. Her voice, strong and sure like a true leader, full of care. She talked about the darkness where they come, the fear we want quench their hope. She talked about the need for strong warrior, person we get spirit big like the desert sky, person we fit stand against the coming wahala. So them begin search for a hero among themselves, person we get the courage and strong heart of their people. Their eyes fall on Jamila, a young girl, where her spirit they fly high like the desert wind. Gap 2s. Jamila, we don't spend plenty time under the stars. Don't learn the secret language of the wind from the spirits of the desert. She fit hear them, they whisper for the grass, feel their hand for the gentle breeze. The queen see for her the loyalty of falcon, the strong heart of desert flower, and the spirit of the ancestors where know they give up. She gave Jamila a ring made from special desert metal, where they shine with light from inside. This ring, the sign of protection and guidance, go lead her steps even for the darkest night. Now, in the heart of Yoruba land, the drums, they were talking, kuboom, 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 like the heartbeat of Mama Earth herself, Moremi, our wise leader. Her face like she was carrying the whole world's worries. She stood in front of her people. Torches, they were dancing, throwing shadows everywhere, making people feel, how do you say, a little bit scared, but also a little bit hopeful. She talked about the darkness, the one way they creep closer, the fear where one swallow everything. She talk say we need person, we go protect us, someone we get the wisdom of our grandfathers and grandmothers, someone we fit face the darkness. So they looked to the Orishas, our gods. They prayed for guidance. They wanted champion, touched by God's hand, someone we fit waka between this world and the spirit world. Their eyes fell on Akin, learning from the Babalawo, him heart pure like the morning sun. Akin, he knew the stories of the Orishas, from the beginning, their victories, their wahala. He knew book. He understood this world and the spirit world, how they balance like that. He fit read the signs, understand the omens, even talk to the gods. Moremi, she saw in him the wisdom of Orunmila, the kind heart of Umoja, and the strong faith of our ancestors. She gave him a calabash, small but fine, with carvings of the Orisha's wisdom all over it. This calabash, it was like a phone to God, whispering guidance and wisdom to Akin to help him on the journey ahead. The sun, a blazing ball of fire in the sky, beat down on the bustling marketplace. The air buzzed with the sounds of trade and conversation. Merchants hawked their wares. Children chased each other through the crowded stalls. The scent of spices, roasted meat, and exotic fruits filled the air. This was no ordinary market. This was the crossroads of the three kingdoms. It was a place where cultures intertwined, where languages mingled like the strands of a beautifully woven tapestry. It was here, at the heart of their shared destiny, that the three chosen heroes met for the first time. Obiora, the Igbo hunter, his chi charm pulsing with a soft, reassuring glow, navigated the crowds with the grace of a forest cat. His eyes, sharp and alert, missed nothing. He had never ventured far from his forest home, and the sights and sounds of the marketplace both fascinated and overwhelmed him. Jamila, the Hausa maiden, her desert ring shimmering under the intense sun, moved through the crowd like a desert wind, her steps light and sure, her eyes, as vast and knowing as the desert sky, scanned her surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The noise and chaos of the market were a stark contrast to the quiet solitude of her desert home. Akin, the Yoruba apprentice, clutching his calabash close to his chest, felt a wave of dizziness wash over him as he entered the marketplace. He had spent most of his life within the confines of his master's home, immersed in ancient texts and rituals. The sheer energy of the marketplace, the cacophony of sounds, the riot of colors, threatened to overwhelm his senses. Their paths, guided by fate and destiny, converged near a towering baobab tree, its ancient branches offering a moment of respite from the sun's relentless heat. The air crackled with unspoken anticipation. This was no chance encounter. This was a meeting ordained by the ancestors, a gathering of hope in a time of growing darkness. Obiora, his hand instinctively resting on the shaft of his spear, studied his companions, his hunter's instincts on high alert. He saw the quiet strength in Jamila's stance, the unwavering resolve in Akin's eyes, and he knew that he was not alone in this fight. Jamila, her fingers tracing the intricate carvings on her desert ring, felt a surge of both trepidation and excitement. The fate of her people Fetidi, the Fiji Moyasa, Fetari Idi, Hisiji her kingdom, rested on her shoulders. Yet she drew strength from the presence of her companions, knowing that their combined might would be their greatest weapon. Akin, his fingers tightening around his calabash, felt a familiar warmth spread through his chest, a reassuring presence that he recognized as the guiding hand of Orunmila. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger, yet he faced the unknown with a quiet courage, bolstered by the knowledge that he was not alone. They spoke not of fear, but of hope. They spoke not of doubt, but of determination. They spoke not of themselves, but of their people, their kingdoms, their shared destiny. Obiora, his voice carrying the wisdom of the forest, spoke of the whispers he had heard in the rustling leaves, of the shadows that danced at the edge of his vision. He spoke of the growing darkness that threatened to consume their world. Jamila, her voice as clear and strong as the desert wind, spoke of the visions she had seen in the swirling sands, of the whispers she had heard in the howling winds. She spoke of the fear that gripped the hearts of her people. She spoke of the urgent need for action. Akin, his voice resonating with the wisdom of the Orishas, spoke of the omens he had read in the patterns of the stars, of the messages he had received in his dreams. He spoke of the delicate balance between the physical and spiritual realms, a balance that had been disrupted, a balance that needed to be restored. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the marketplace, the three heroes, bound by destiny and a shared purpose, made a solemn vow. They would stand together. They would fight together. They would reclaim their land from the clutches of darkness. Their journey began in the east, in the heart of the Igbo homeland. The forest welcomed them, not with open arms, but with a hushed silence that pressed against their eardrums. The air, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves, felt heavy, almost suffocating. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and shifted with the slightest breeze. Obiora, his hand resting reassuringly on his spear, led the way, his footsteps barely disturbing the carpet of fallen leaves. He moved with the grace of a forest spirit, his senses alert to every rustle, every snap, every whisper in the undergrowth. The forest speaks in whispers, he cautioned his companions, his voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. We must listen carefully, for not all whispers are friendly. Jamila, her desert ring tingling against her skin, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and apprehension, struggled to keep pace with Obiora. The forest, so different from the open expanse of her desert home, pressed in on her, a living, breathing entity that both fascinated and frightened her. Akin, his fingers clutching his calabash, his steps hesitant, felt a sense of disorientation wash over him. The forest seemed to shift and change around him, the paths twisting and turning, leading them in circles. The air hummed with unseen energy, a symphony of whispers that tugged at the edges of his awareness. The forest tested them, not with brute force, but with subtle deceptions that played on their fears and desires. Paths that seemed clear one moment, dissolved into tangles of thorns and vines the next. Voices called out to them from the undergrowth, mimicking the tones of loved ones, tempting them to stray from the path. Obiora, his chicham pulsing with a warm light, warned his companions against the forest's treachery. The forest feeds on doubt, he whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. We must trust our instincts, and we must trust each other. Jamila, her desert ring growing warm against her skin, felt a chill run down her spine as she heard a voice, soft and familiar, calling her name. It was her mother's voice, filled with love and concern. But deep down, she knew that her mother was miles away, safe within the walls of their desert home. Akin, his calabash humming with a low, insistent thrum, felt a wave of dizziness wash over him as the forest floor seemed to tilt beneath his feet. Visions flashed before his eyes, images of his past, his fears, his deepest desires, all swirling together in a dizzying kaleidoscope. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and clung to the reassuring weight of his calabash. He knew that the forest was trying to break his spirit, to lure him into its web of deception. The forest, a master manipulator, knew how to exploit their weaknesses, to turn their strengths against them. It showed them visions of what could be, tempting them with power, glory, and the fulfillment of their deepest desires. Obiora, his heart heavy with a longing for his family, saw a vision of his village, untouched by the Shadow Walker's darkness, his family safe and sound, his grandmother's face creased with a loving smile. For a moment, he was tempted to abandon his quest, to return to the familiar comfort of his home, but then he remembered the fear in his people's eyes, the weight of their expectations, and he knew that he couldn't turn back. Jamila, her heart filled with a yearning for adventure and recognition, saw a vision of herself as a powerful queen, her rule extending far beyond the borders of her kingdom. She saw herself leading armies to victory, her name whispered with awe and admiration. The temptation to embrace this destiny, to claim the power that was rightfully hers, was almost overwhelming. Akin, his mind plagued by doubts and insecurities, saw a vision of himself as a renowned Babalawo, his wisdom sought after by kings and queens, his name whispered with reverence and respect. He saw himself as a beacon of hope, his knowledge guiding his people through the darkness. The desire to prove himself, to silence the voices of doubt that whispered in his ear, was almost unbearable. But through it all, the chi guided Obiora. It pulsed with a warm, reassuring light, cutting through the illusions, reminding him of his purpose. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and focused on the chi's glow. It filled him with a sense of peace, of clarity, of unwavering resolve. He would not be swayed by the forest's trickery. He would not abandon his quest. He would see his mission through to the end. He opened his eyes and looked at his companions. They too were struggling, their faces etched with longing, with doubt, with fear. He knew that he had to help them, to remind them of their shared purpose. He reached out, his hand outstretched, his chi charm glowing brightly. "We are stronger together," he said, his voice firm and unwavering. "Don't let the forest divide us." Leaving the dense, emerald embrace of the Igbo forest, the three heroes emerged into the Hausa lands. The landscape was a stark contrast to the lush greenery they had just left behind. Here, the sun beat down on a world of golden sand dunes that stretched as far as the eye could see. The air, dry and hot, carried the scent of dust and distant storms. Jamila, her desert ring pulsing with a soft, comforting warmth, breathed deeply, her lungs filling with the familiar, invigorating air of her homeland. She felt a sense of renewed purpose wash over her, her footsteps lighter, her spirit soaring with the desert hawks that circled lazily overhead. "We are close," she announced, her voice carrying clearly in the still air. The ancient city of Kano awaits. Obiora, his chi charm pulsing with a steady rhythm, squinted at the horizon, his keen eyes searching for any sign of life in the seemingly barren landscape. The desert, so different from his beloved forest, filled him with a sense of unease, a feeling of vulnerability he had never known before. Akin, clutching his calabash, his brow furrowed in concentration, felt a shift in the spiritual energy around him. The air, though seemingly empty, buzzed with unseen currents, like whispers carried on the wind. He sensed the presence of powerful spirits, ancient and enigmatic. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the desert, the faint outline of a city, shimmering like a mirage, began to materialize on the horizon. Towers of sun-baked clay rose from the sand, their intricate carvings glinting in the sunlight. The air, once silent, hummed with a low, persistent thrum, the sound of countless voices whispering on the wind. "This is no ordinary city," Akin murmured, his voice barely audible above the whispering wind. "This is a place where the veil between worlds is thin, where spirits walk freely." As they approached the city gates, a swirling vortex of sand and wind materialized before them, its form shifting and contorting like a living creature. From its depths, a voice ancient and raspy boomed. Only those who can unravel the riddles of the winds may enter the city of Kano. Speak now, travelers, and prove your worth. Jamila, her desert ring pulsing with a warm light, stepped forward, her gaze steady, her voice clear and strong. She had spent countless hours listening to the desert winds, deciphering their whispers, learning their secrets. She knew that these riddles were not merely tests of wit, but trials designed to challenge their resolve, to probe their hearts. The wind spirit, its form swirling and pulsing, spoke its first riddle, its voice echoing across the desert. I have no voice, yet I speak to you. I have no body, yet I dance before your eyes. I have no hands, yet I can lift you to the heavens, or dash you against the rocks. What am I? Obiora, his hunter's instincts on high alert, felt a surge of unease as the wind spirit spoke. He had never encountered magic like this before, a power that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. He gripped his spear tightly, his knuckles turning white, ready to defend himself and his companions against any threat. Akin, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings on his calabash, closed his eyes, his senses expanding, reaching out to embrace the swirling energies that surrounded them. He could feel the wind, spirits, power, ancient and vast, yet he also sensed a playful undercurrent, a mischievous glint in its voice. Jamila, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex, her mind racing, sifted through the whispers of the desert winds, searching for the answer to the spirit's riddle. She knew that the answer was not hidden in some arcane text, but in the very nature of the desert itself, in the ever-shifting sands, the unpredictable gusts, the unseen forces that shaped this harsh yet beautiful land. A slow smile spread across her face as realization dawned. She raised her voice, her words ringing with quiet confidence. You are the wind, great spirit. You are the very breath of the desert, the unseen hand that shapes the dunes, the voice that whispers tales of ancient times. The wind spirit, its form swirling even faster, emitted a low hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate in their very bones. Jamila had answered correctly, but the trial was far from over. The wind spirit, its voice taking on a sharper edge, challenged her further. You have a keen mind, daughter of the desert, it boomed, its voice echoing across the sands. But wit alone will not suffice. Tell me, travelers, what is stronger than the mightiest warrior, more cunning than the wiliest trickster, yet as fragile as a spider's thread? Obiora, his hand tightening around his spear, felt a surge of impatience. He preferred action to riddles, the thrill of the hunt to the complexities of words. He glanced at Jamila, his brow furrowed in concern. He sensed that this riddle was different, that it cut deeper, striking at the very heart of their quest. Akin, his eyes still closed, his brow creased in concentration, felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The air crackled with a new intensity, a sense of anticipation that sent a tremor through his very being. He knew that the wind spirit was testing them, probing their defenses, searching for any weakness it could exploit. Jamila, her gaze fixed on the swirling vortex, felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her chest. The wind spirit's words echoed in her mind, their meaning elusive, their import clear. This was not just a test of knowledge, but a challenge to the very foundation of their alliance, their trust in each other. She realized that the answer lay not in the wind or the sand, but in the bonds that united them, the shared purpose that had brought them together. This was a test of their unity, of the very essence of their quest. After the challenges of the Hausa desert, the three companions found themselves at the edge of a vast, shimmering expanse of water. The air, thick with humidity, vibrated with the sounds of unseen creatures and the intoxicating scent of exotic flowers. Gone were the harsh, sun-baked landscapes of the north. Here, in the heart of the Yoruba lands, life teemed in every shadow, in every ripple of the water. "This is no ordinary river," Akin whispered, his voice hushed with reverence. He clutched his calabash tightly, his fingers tracing the familiar patterns carved into its surface. "This is the river of 1,000 ancestors, a place where time flows in all directions, where the past, present, and future intertwine." Obiora, his hand resting on his spear, his chi-charm pulsing with a soft, reassuring glow, stared at the river, his brow furrowed in thought. He had navigated the treacherous currents of forest streams and the unpredictable depths of hidden pools. But this river felt different. It exuded an ancient power, a sense of timelessness that both fascinated and frightened him. Jamila, her desert ring cool against her skin, felt a shiver run down her spine, a sensation that had nothing to do with the humidity. The desert, for all its harshness, held a certain predictability, a stark beauty in its emptiness. This river, however, pulsed with unseen energies, its depths concealing secrets as old as time itself. Akin, his voice barely a whisper, explained the nature of their challenge, his words echoing the ancient stories he had learned at his master's feet. "The river will test us," he said, his gaze fixed on the swirling currents. "It will show us visions, glimpses of our deepest desires, our greatest fears. We must be strong, my friends. We must not lose ourselves in the river's flow." As they stepped into the cool, flowing water, the world around them seemed to dissolve, replaced by a kaleidoscope of images, sounds, and sensations. The river, a master storyteller, began to weave its magic, drawing them into its watery embrace. Obiora, his head spinning, found himself standing in the heart of a bustling village, surrounded by the laughter of children and the comforting aroma of his grandmother's cooking. He saw his parents, their faces free from worry lines, their eyes shining with pride. For a fleeting moment, he felt a surge of pure joy, a longing to remain in this idyllic scene, to forget the darkness that threatened his world. Jamila, her senses reeling, found herself standing on a balcony overlooking a vast city, the cheers of her people echoing in her ears. She was adorned in silks and jewels, her head crowned with gold, her every command met with instant obedience. Power, she realized, felt intoxicating, addictive. She could rule this land, bring order to chaos. Her name whispered with respect and awe. Akin, his heart pounding, found himself in a dimly lit hut, the air thick with incense. Ancient texts spread out before him. He saw himself as a revered elder, his wisdom sought after by kings and queens, his pronouncements shaping the destiny of nations. Knowledge, he realized, was a double-edged sword, a burden as much as a gift. He could use his knowledge for good or for evil, the weight of his choices heavy on his shoulders. The river, however, was not content to merely tempt them with illusions of happiness and fulfillment. It also revealed their deepest fears, their hidden insecurities, the shadows that lurked beneath the surface of their hearts. Obiora, his breath catching in his throat, saw a vision of his village engulfed in flames, the screams of his people echoing in his ears. He saw his own reflection, his eyes filled with fear and impotence, his spear lying useless at his feet. Failure, he realized, was a bitter pill to swallow, a wound that could fester and poison the soul. Jamila, her stomach clenching, saw a vision of herself alone in the vast emptiness of the desert, her people scattered to the winds, her kingdom a wasteland of sand and bones. Isolation, she realized, was a cruel mistress, a slow, agonizing death that gnawed at the edges of sanity. She craved connection, the warmth of human touch, the reassurance of shared laughter. Akin, his skin crawling with fear, saw a vision of himself transformed into a grotesque mockery of his former self. His body twisted by dark magic, his eyes burning with an unholy light. Corruption, he realized, could seep into the cracks of even the purest heart, twisting good intentions into monstrous deeds. He clung to the last vestiges of his humanity, desperate to resist the darkness that threatened to consume him. As the visions swirled around them, threatening to pull them under, the three companions instinctively reached out to each other, their hands grasping, their fingers intertwining. In that moment of shared vulnerability, they found strength, a connection that transcended the river's illusions. Obiora, his chi-charm pulsing with a warm, reassuring light, saw the fear in his companion's eyes, and he knew that he had to be strong, not just for himself, but for them. He had faced his fears before, had emerged from the darkness stronger, more determined. He would guide them through this too. Jamila, her desert ring glowing with a soft, comforting warmth, felt the strength of Obiora's grip, the unwavering support in Akin's gaze, and she knew that she was not alone. She had faced the harsh realities of the desert, had learned to adapt, to survive. She would draw on that resilience now, would use it to protect her companions, to see them through this trial. Akin, his calabash humming with a low reassuring thrum, felt the warmth of Jamila's hand, the steadfastness of Obiora's presence, and he knew that he had found something precious, something worth fighting for. He had spent his life seeking knowledge, understanding. Now he realized true wisdom lay in the bonds of friendship, in the shared journey, in the unwavering support of those who walked beside him. Together, their hands clasped, their spirits united. They faced the river's current, their combined strength forming a bulwark against the tide of illusions. The river of 1,000 ancestors deposited them on the shores of a land unlike any they had ever seen. The air hung heavy, thick with the stench of decay and despair. The sky, a bruised canvas of purple and grey, pulsed with an unsettling energy. The once vibrant hues of the Yoruba lands had given way to a monochrome palette of shadows and silence. Obiora, his cheek-arm glowing defiantly against the encroaching darkness, gripped his spear tightly, his senses on high alert. The forest had tested their resolve, the desert, their wit. But this place felt different. It emanated a palpable aura of malice, a sense of wrongness that seeped into their very bones. Jamila, her desert ring pulsing with a faint warmth, her hand instinctively reaching for Obiora's, felt a shiver run down her spine. The desert, for all its harshness, held a certain stark beauty, a sense of openness that allowed the spirit to soar. Here, the very air felt oppressive, as if the weight of 1,000 unspoken sorrows pressed down upon them. Akin, clutching his calabash, his brow furrowed in concentration, felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, not from the river's magic this time, but from the sheer intensity of the negative energy that saturated the air. The whispers of the Orishas, usually so clear and comforting, were drowned out by a cacophony of whispers, dark and menacing, that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. The path ahead, barely discernible amidst the tangled undergrowth and decaying vegetation, led them deeper into the heart of the corrupted land. The silence, broken only by the sound of their own footsteps and the frantic beating of their hearts, was unnerving, amplifying every rustle, every snap, every sigh of the wind. "We are close," Obiora whispered, his voice barely audible above the pounding of his heart. He could feel it now, a presence, dark and malevolent, watching their every move, his power radiating outward like a suffocating shroud. They emerged from the oppressive embrace of the forest into a clearing, the air thick with the stench of decay and the faint metallic tang of blood. In the center stood a structure unlike anything they had ever seen, a twisted parody of a dwelling, its walls constructed from a patchwork of shadows and bones, its roof a grotesque mosaic of animal skulls and withered branches. Jamila gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Even in her wildest nightmares, she could not have imagined a place so utterly devoid of hope, so steeped in darkness. This was no mere dwelling. This was a testament to despair, a monument to suffering, a physical manifestation of the Shadow Walker's twisted power. Akin, his breath catching in his throat, his fingers tightening around his calabash, felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He had witnessed the aftermath of battles, had felt the sting of loss, the weight of grief, but this went beyond anything he could have comprehended. The very air seemed to crackle with malevolence, as if the clearing itself were a wound on the face of the earth, slowly festering, oozing despair. A cold wind swept across the clearing, swirling around the heroes as they cautiously approached the macabre structure. The air crackled with a palpable tension, a sense of an inevitable clash between light and encroaching darkness. Obiora, his chi-charm radiating a warm, unwavering light, tightened his grip on his spear, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. He had faced down charging boars and venomous serpents, but this felt different. This was not a beast driven by instinct, but a being of twisted intelligence, its motives as unfathomable as the shadows themselves. Jamila, her desert ring thrumming against her skin, her hand resting reassuringly on Obiora's shoulder, fought to still the tremor in her heart. The desert had taught her to respect the unseen forces of nature, the capricious whims of wind and sand, but this felt like a violation of the natural order, a perversion of something ancient and powerful. Akin, clutching his calabash, his brow furrowed in concentration, muttered a silent prayer to the Orishas, seeking their guidance and protection. The air, thick with the stench of decay and the lingering echo of suffering, made it difficult to breathe, as if the very essence of life were being leached away by the darkness that permeated this place. They reached the entrance of the structure, a gaping maw formed by the jaws of a giant skull. Shadows, writhing within its depths like tormented souls. A low growl, barely audible, yet chillingly distinct, emanated from within, sending shivers down their spines. "Shadow Walker," Obiora called out, his voice echoing through the clearing, a lone beacon of defiance in the oppressive silence. "We have come for what you have stolen. Release the children's voices. Restore balance to our land." A moment of silence stretched, thick with anticipation, the air crackling with unseen energy. Then, a figure slowly emerged from the shadows, its form shifting and coalescing like smoke given life. It was not the monstrous entity they had expected, but a man, his features obscured by a swirling cloak of darkness, his eyes burning with an unnatural light. Jamila gasped, her hand tightening on Obiora's shoulder. She recognized him. It was Chidi, the wandering storyteller. His voice, once a familiar sound in the marketplace, his tales weaving magic into the hearts of children and adults alike. What had become of him? What darkness had twisted his soul, transforming him into this embodiment of fear and despair? "Chidi," Akin whispered, his voice filled with sadness and disbelief. Is that truly you? The figure, if it even recognized the name, gave no sign. It simply stood there, its shadowy form wavering in the flickering light of Obiora's chi charm, a chilling parody of the man they once knew. You mistake me for a man, the Shadow Walker hissed, his voice a raspy whisper that seemed to slither through the air like a venomous serpent. I am the darkness that dwells within all things, the fear that gnaws at the edges of your hearts, the doubt that whispers in your ears. He raised his hand, his long skeletal fingers tipped with claws of pure shadow. You cannot defeat me, for I am a part of you. I am the shadow self, the darkness you deny, the truth you fear to face. The air crackled with malevolent energy, a palpable wave of menace washing over the heroes, threatening to overwhelm them. The battle, they realized, had begun, but it would not be a battle of brute force or magical prowess. This would be a battle for their very souls. The sun, a warm caress on the land, dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, purple, and gold. The marketplace, now bathed in the soft glow of oil lamps and crackling firelight, buzzed with a different energy, a sense of peace and celebration that had been absent for far too long. The children's laughter, no longer held captive by the Shadow Walker's darkness, danced on the breeze, their voices blending in a joyful chorus that echoed the resilience of the human spirit. The air, cleansed of its oppressive weight, carried the scent of roasting meats, fragrant spices, and the sweet perfume of blooming night flowers. In the heart of the marketplace, beneath the sheltering branches of the ancient baobab tree, a group of storytellers wove their magic. Their voices, rich with the cadence of generations past, transported their listeners to realms of wonder and adventure, reminding them of the enduring power of stories, of the bonds that unite them across time and distance. An old woman, her face etched with the wisdom of a life lived fully, her eyes twinkling with mischief, recounted the tale of Obiora, Jamila, and Akin, her voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the drums that pulsed softly in the background. Her words painted vivid pictures in the minds of her listeners, transporting them to the heart of the Igbo forest, the windswept dunes of the Hausa desert, the mystical rivers of the Yoruba lands. The story of their quest, passed down from generation to generation, became a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit of Nigeria. It reminded them that even in the darkest of times, courage could be found in the most unexpected places, that unity could overcome even the most daunting challenges. The marketplace, once a symbol of division, a place where cultures clashed and tensions flared, transformed into a vibrant tapestry of unity. Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba mingled freely, their laughter blending, their traditions intertwining, their shared heritage celebrated in every dance, every song, every shared meal. The Ofo staff, the doorbell horn, and the sacred drum of Sango, once symbols of each kingdom's unique identity, were now brought together once a year in a grand celebration of unity under the watchful gaze of the elders, their surfaces gleaming in the firelight. They stood as a testament to the power of collaboration, a reminder that their true strength lay not in their differences, but in their shared humanity. And so, the legacy of Obiora, Jamila, and Akin lived on, not just in the stories that were told, but in the very fabric of the society, in the spirit of unity and cooperation that bound them together. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, not by destroying the shadows, but by embracing the light that resided within them all.